Well, welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Tim Costello in Bidi Bidi camp. This is in Northern Uganda. It's now the world's largest refugee camp. In just really 9 months, 273,000 people have poured in here, South Sudanese. And that 270,000 is just a part of 1 million South Sudanese refugees in Uganda. Another 1 million have fled also South Sudan to other countries. So that's 2 million South Sudanese who have fled because of ethnic conflict, tribal and communal violence. 2 million have fled out of a total population of 12 million. I'm with Comfort and I'm with Moses. Comfort is our commodities manager in this camp, and I'm going to start with you, Comfort. Can you tell us a little bit of what your work is? What do you do here?
Okay, the work that I do here is basically to manage the World Food Program distributions within the settlement to ensure that the right refugees who have fled in, who have been registered by the Office of the Prime Minister, receive their right entitlement and in time to ensure that they have something to eat and have a better life. Yeah.
And you were telling me just yesterday, Comfort, that you've only been married for 7 months.
Yes, sure, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your husband's a day and a half away from here. How many times have you seen your husband in the last 7 months?
In the last 7 months, I've seen my husband so far 3 times, and each of the time I spend about 3 to 5 days at home with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've had 15 days in the last 7 months of being with your loved one.
Yes, yes, yes.
Why do you make these sacrifices?
Right. As a person, this is a personal thing. Me as Comfort, I love serving the needy, and then for the past 8 years, I've been serving not only in Bidi Bidi, but I started with a drought response in Karamoja. So that has been part of me, and my husband, being a Christian, also has the heart for the needy. So we've had discussions all through the time we were even relating before we fully get married. He understands that I work with an emergency program, and then the time I spend with him, however small it is, to him he thinks I am doing a better work where I am. But besides, we keep in touch online, we talk each and every day. So we are in touch even if we don't physically meet on a daily basis.
I just admire your sacrifice. I've been married 38 years and my wife doesn't mind me being away. She sometimes prefers it, but your husband is incredibly committed as you are. Yeah, Moses, you do a whole lot of work here. Yeah. I know you've been looking at the child-friendly spaces and unaccompanied and separated children, because World Vision monitors that. Tell us about what World Vision has discovered with unaccompanied children.
Yeah, since July 2016, Uganda has been receiving, on average, 2,500 refugees from South Sudan. And 86% of this population is women and children. So a quick figure there, 59% of this number is just children.
Wow.
Now by children we mean between the ages of 1 or 0 to 18. And we are having a situation where we've been receiving 100 plus unaccompanied minors and separated children every single day coming into Uganda.
100 being registered by World Vision every day?
Every day. And sometimes you have 200, 250.
And do these children know where their parents are, and how did they get here unaccompanied?
Yeah, a majority of them don't even know where their parents are. Others have seen their parents being killed in cold blood, and they've witnessed all that kind of fear and trauma. And the other thing we're noticing is that most of these unaccompanied and separated children have lost touch with their families. So as World Vision, according to our tally, our books where we register their cases every day, we have 9,000 unaccompanied minors and separated children coming into Uganda. 9,000 as of this month.
So when we have 9,000 unaccompanied children, what do we do? What can we do?
So as World Vision, we're helping to do some foster parenting for these children. We have a child protection programming, a program that we are working with the refugees within the settlements, a refugee becoming a foster parent.
So a refugee family takes in a child who's a refugee who isn't part of their own family.
It's such a pain, but the only way you can handle it is to have someone who understands their story to be part of the story that is answering the solution. So we're having over 950 foster parents we've managed to identify in the settlements, and we are attaching them. You know, we have at least, we make sure the family we are attaching this child, most times they are married, you know. We don't want to attach a family which is maybe of another unaccompanied minor. So we have families we worked with, 950, we've identified them, and we are supporting these families to make sure that the children are well catered for, and we are also providing some assistance to these families. We're providing some core relief items, we're providing food, we're making sure they have also some small grant just to help them start up with these families.
And the grant might be tools, it might be...
Yeah.
Tell us about, because Moses mentioned food.
Yes, please.
What does World Vision do? Because I saw children arriving yesterday, clothes in tatters, no backpack, no food. What does World Vision do?
Okay, in Bidi Bidi, World Vision handles the dry rations that is basically given by World Food Program. And the dry rations we talk about, there are different commodities. They receive sorghum or maize grain.
And that's like a rice in us for Australians,
exactly,
a staple.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's most times the staple food, because these refugees, they first find out what commodities they prefer and what they eat. They don't just choose anything to give. And then they give them beans, they give them corn soya blend, they give them vegetable oil, and then they give them salt. This is supposed to make a full meal in a day. So that is basically what we give in terms of the food. But besides that, World Vision also does non-food items, where we give a different types of items, especially when these refugees just arrive at the reception center.
What sort of items come from?
We give them mats. We give them mats for sleeping. We give them blankets. We give them tarpaulins to start up, to make a tent. Yes, to make a tent where they can sleep in. We give them sanitary pads and underwears for the women. We give them other tools like oars, pangas to enable them settle. And besides that, we also give them cooking utensils like saucepans, like plates, just to give them a startup life. Yeah, basically those are the key things that we give in terms of non-food items and in terms of food.
And when we talk in these huge numbers, you know, 1 million South Sudanese in Uganda, Stalin once said, 1 million deaths is a statistic.
Yeah.
One person's death is a tragedy. Has there been any stories, personal stories, that have really touched you, of people who've arrived?
Yes, there's been personal stories. One in looking at the staff themselves going through the painful nights. I remember when Bidi Bidi was opened, the first team that came on ground, the first refugees entered the reception center at 11 p.m.
Wow.
And then we had the staff had to sit and serve them food all the way up to around 4 a.m. in the night. And then by 6 in the morning, we needed to have porridge ready for these refugees in the morning. This was not an easy thing to cope with, being a life that you're not used to, but because of basically because of the giving that you've given yourself to serve these people, you have to embrace it, you have to take it, and then you have to look at the well-being of someone near you. Because when you look back, you imagine Uganda some 20, 30, 40 years ago also went through some tragedy. So you have that in mind, that today it's them, today it's me. So that is it. Then also not only in Bidi Bidi, but also in we had an incident where we had to, every time wake up, drive about 1 hour by around 4 a.m. in the morning. And you're going to distribute biscuits within 1 hour, high energy biscuits.
High energy biscuits.
High energy biscuits at the border point. These people have just arrived. It has rained on them. The children are there in the mud. And that is really, really so touching. And that is one of the things that give us the courage each and every day to keep supporting these children. Yeah.
Comfort was referring, Moses, to the fact that Ugandans once were refugees. We all remember Idi Amin and that tragedy. I'm amazed with 2,000 South Sudanese refugees crossing the border every day here, 1 million already here in Uganda, that the Ugandan government doesn't close the border. And that the Ugandan government does things that I know of no other government in the world does for refugees. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think Uganda has one of, not one, but the best refugee policy in the whole world.
Yeah.
It's only in Uganda where a refugee has rights to each and everything apart from voting.
Apart from
Yeah.
voting.
So a refugee enters Uganda and they get a 30 by 30 meters plot of land. You don't have that anywhere else in the whole world. The other thing is that refugees in Uganda are not confined within a camp. So here it's a settlement, meaning a refugee can live just next door to me, you know, within their neighborhood. So the refugee policy we have here has provided land to all the refugees. So each refugee has a 30 by 30 meters of land where they're doing some small farming, some small agriculture. So families, different families come together.
And do those refugees have access to the same health care and school rights
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
Ugandans?
Exactly. They do have the same access to that, but because of the increasing number every day, we are seeing a strain on service delivery.
Yeah.
Because refugees and the host communities are using the same services, like schools, like hospitals, like water sources. So we are seeing a lot of strain. I think Uganda has been very generous. It has provided all it can. But this humanitarian crisis is one of the poorly funded in the whole world.
Yeah.
So Uganda is one of the poorest countries in the world, being generous.
Exactly.
And this crisis, which I've called the forgotten crisis, really isn't stopping because of the communal violence.
Yes.
Can you explain to us, Comfort, how host communities, Ugandan communities, are responding to ever continuing numbers of refugees?
Okay. The host community have been positive in terms of
Positive, yeah.
they have been positive in terms of receiving the refugees. This is seen in the land that they have been giving. A place like Bidi Bidi, most of the land that the refugees currently are settling in, have settled in, have been given by the host community.
The host community hands over their land?
Yes.
Wow.
The office of the Prime Minister approaches the landowners, and they give in the land willingly. And in most times, they don't even so much ask for a kind of a payment for it.
Wow.
Because when these refugees come in, they are staying together with them. They are sharing the same facilities, and besides, and every other thing that is there. Besides giving the land, when these refugees come, they basically have nothing. They could be having some little money, 1 or 2, 3 people who have come with some money, but the host community also come in with these other small businesses, giving out, selling vegetables, selling different small things that the refugees or that the organizations that are intervening are not able to give. So with that, I really see the host community giving a lot of support to the refugees.
It's remarkable. It's
Yeah.
simply remarkable.
Yeah.
For an Australian with our refugee policy, I'm
Yeah.
astounded.
Yeah.
Well, I know the Australian government has given World Vision $2.5 million for the crisis here, and the government's, I think, given about $20 million overall for the East Africa famine. But I have heard stories that the rations here that are meant to be for a month are going to be cut because not enough donor governments, private individuals are giving. Can you tell us about the challenge with money, Moses?
Yeah, World Food Program, for instance, needs $15 million almost every day to provide food for the refugees in Uganda. Uganda is home to some 890,000 refugees from South Sudan alone, but when you add the number of refugees and asylum seekers, that's 1 million plus.
Yeah.
Now, since July last year, when we had a new caseload of refugees coming in, we had a big number now, a spike. And World Food Program was wondering, what do I do? Should I continue giving food or should I discontinue that? And due to underfunding, a decision was taken and said, okay, for all refugees that arrived in Uganda prior to July 2016, you're all going to get half rations in a bid to provide food for the new refugees coming in. And so that was from July last year to this month. Now, because the funding is still not well, it's not sufficient, another worrying decision has been taken, and that is to also continue halving the rations.
Even for new arrivals?
For the new
Yes,
arrivals.
even for the new arrivals, except only Mivepi, which is just less than
another
2
camp
months.
we're in.
Another camp we just opened about 2 months
Can they
ago.
live on half rations, Comfort?
Definitely not. You cannot live on half ration unless you have other sources of income or other sources of food. But if the state, especially for the new settlement like Bidi Bidi, these people have just come in, they have not yet settled in. The time they came in was a dry spell. You cannot tell that they have some small gardens around that they have cultivated anything. So in one way or another, this half ration is not enough. That's why we keep calling upon other people to come in and support, so that we see.
It seems to me that the world and the donor governments, private Australians, should say, here is a poor country with a government doing the right thing. We must support them. Are you asking for more money?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to take an opportunity to speak right now to the audience in Australia, maybe, and to you, who is our chief advocate, that the World Food Program, the UNHCR, the UNICEF, and agencies like World Vision, we can do much better, but only if we have the funding. Only if we have the funding that we need to provide, education, to provide health care, to provide food for the refugees. Just come to imagine, you've been having 12 kilograms of rice, right?
Yeah.
And I tell you, well, you're going to survive on 6. How do you communicate to your body and tell it, you have survived now on 6, And these are refugees coming in.
Yeah.
They have children, they have young ones, and they are the elderly. So it's unexplainable, and we'd like to appeal to the donor community out there that we need funding. We need to have these people live.
It really has been the forgotten crisis when we don't get.
Yeah.
I visited yesterday a family in the child protection centres of World Vision running, and a mother of 20 with 2 children had come down here with her 2 siblings, and the younger brother had a very bad medical condition on his side of his face. These were separated siblings. Single mother, 2 children, and her brother and sister, who are really young, 7 and 8. And my heart went out. I thought, if people in the world could empathise as Ugandans do, saying we once were refugees, this could be me, because they're innocent. They didn't take up a gun. Their suffering is innocent, and respond to them, I would want to respond. You have seen many of those stories.
Yeah, sure.
Worse still, I mean, the stories that really touch me most are the ones of children that are walking into Uganda and they don't even know where they're coming from. And you ask them, which state are you coming from? They don't remember anything. The only thing they know, when sporadic gunfire broke out, we just ran with the neighbors and we found ourselves in Uganda. Their parents, some of them tell you, as we're coming on the way, my father was hacked to death, my mother was raped, I was seeing that happen. And this is a 9-year-old. So you ask yourself, how are they going to live, with all that in their heads? And they're in this settlement, they have no parent, no brother, no sister, no cousin, no uncle, no nephew, no nothing. So, I mean, the world really must take a step and see how we can end the crisis in South Sudan, but also provide for the needs of these people.
And I'm sure people watching this will say, obviously the hunger is driven by conflict. Can there be any solution to the conflict so that people don't have to flee? Because most people want to stay where they are. They don't want to.
True.
And children who just follow the column of human suffering, don't even know where they're going, shouldn't be separated from their parents. Is there any hopeful signs that you see of ending the conflict?
Well, from the Uganda side, I mean, we don't have much that we can do, apart from opening our borders and allowing them to come in, sadly. But that's not what we wish for. What we wish for is a peaceful, I don't want to talk about power in South Sudan, but there need to be, the leaders must come together and ask themselves the question, is it still worth it? Is it worth it to see innocent children dying? Is it worth it to see pregnant women and, all that kind of thing, people be displaced from their homes and communities? Because South Sudan now has close to 1 million people displaced. Close to 1 million people displaced. I mean, how are they ever going to come back home to their country if there is no peace? I speak to so many of the refugees because I do stories, and they tell you, I'm not going back. You know, I'd rather be here.
Most of
I'm
them
not
are
going
not planning to go back at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, some of them, with the interactions we've had with them, and also with other humanitarian workers within, they sometimes say, if only the leaders of South Sudan can even then get to reach these camps and see how their own people are living, then they would really think within themselves to see to it that the conflict in South Sudan is ended. Because even then, as a leader, you need to look at the well-being and the welfare of the people that you intend to serve. So we know we, as in Uganda right now, the best we can do, as Moses said, is to open our arms and welcome them and take care of them. But then the world has a big role to play. Everyone, even those who are watching right now, you really have a big role to play to ensure that the conflict in South Sudan is ended, and then the people that we are living with here in the camps go back and have a peaceful life and get back to their normal life, just like each and every one of us out there in the world is living. Yeah, that is really my plea.
Comfort, that's one of the most elegant and eloquent speeches I've heard. And as in name, comfort, so in how you're living and caring, comforting people.
Yeah.
Moses, thank you for leading the people like the original Moses. And you give me hope. I'm sure those watching are really touched by your passion, your courage, your service, that we will never let hope die.
Yeah, sure.
We will keep hope alive. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being with us on this